Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending the Hubbard County Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting of March 25th, 2024. If you briefly give me just a moment, and I will go over the Planning Commission meeting procedure. All persons in attendance at the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meetings are expected to comply with the following meeting procedure. Thank you in advance for helping make this a manageable meeting. Copies of agenda item materials are available for public viewing on the table located at the back of the meeting room. These materials are not to leave the table so that others in attendance may also view them. Please turn phones to vibrate/off during the meeting and conduct any sidebar conversations outside of the meeting room. Interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. Disruptive persons will be removed from the meeting. The chair may terminate a speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. Written material concerning agenda items must be submitted to the Environmental Services Department by 3:30 p.m. on the Wednesday immediately prior to the meeting date. Written materials will not be accepted after this deadline or at the meeting because the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will not have sufficient time to review them prior to the meeting. Such materials must state the agenda item for which it is being submitted and the name and address of the submitting party. Planning Commission business is conducted first, followed by the Board of Adjustment business. The chair will call the meeting to order and explain the meeting procedure. The chair will read each agenda item into the record and ask the applicant to come forward to the presenter's table, state his, her, or their names and address for the record, and explain his, her, their request. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then discuss the agenda item with the applicant. The chair will then ask for public comment on the agenda item. To facilitate an orderly, efficient meeting, there is a 3-minute speaking time limit per speaker per agenda item unless the chair allows a speaker additional time. The chair may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. When the chair recognizes a speaker, she or he may approach the audience podium and microphone, state his or her full name and address for the record, and write such on the speaker log, and then share his or her comments. The audience podium microphone must be used by the recognized speaker because the meeting is recorded. A member of the public may not donate his or her speaking time to another speaker. A speaker should state his or her comments and address the issue, not the applicant's. All comments are to be directed towards the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. Please do not repeat comments already made by previous speakers. The chair reserves the right to ask a group with similar comments to appoint a spokesperson. If written comments have been submitted to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, please do not read them aloud during the meeting as they are already part of the record and copies therefore have been given to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. After everyone wanting to speak on an agenda item has done so, the chair will close the public comment period on the agenda item, and no further public comment will be taken after this point. The chair will give the applicant an opportunity to address issues raised during public comment. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then continue its discussion on the agenda item, and the chair will entertain a motion on it. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may make a motion to pass, deny, or table the item. Once a motion is made and seconded, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will develop findings of fact for conditional use permit and variance applications, and then vote on the motion. Once a vote is taken on an agenda item, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will move on to the next agenda item. Meetings commence at 6 p.m. and continue until all agenda items have been heard or until 10 p.m. No new agenda items shall be considered after 9:45 p.m. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may, at its discretion, continue an item that is on the floor at 10 p.m. Any remaining agenda items shall be continued to another date or time, preferably the immediately following Tuesday at 6 p.m., and no further public notice will be provided for such a meeting continuation. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, through the chair, may modify these procedures prior to a meeting or an agenda item. Okay, thank you, everyone. First off, I would like to welcome our newest Planning Commission Board of Adjustment member, Larry Baumgartner. Thank you, Larry. We have to introduce you right off the bat.
Okay.
Okay, we'll begin with the Planning Commission and approval of, actually there's no minutes to approve and no old business, so we'll go right on to new business. conditional use permit amendment application by 1 CU-24 by Michel Solien, part of Government Lots 3 and 4, Section 8, Township 141, Range 34, Lake Emma Township on Pickerel Lake, a recreational development lake, Parcel 16.08.00710. The applicant is requesting to amend condition number 9 of conditional use permit 3-CU-23. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
Michael Solien, 3809 Heather Valley Road, apartment 112, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, 53083.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Application is to amend condition number 9 on the CUP that was approved last year, late in, actually beginning of this year, in January. I'm looking for the ability to have a phased approach with the septic system that would be supporting the campground. And also would be looking, if approved, for the language to allow some flexibility in regards to designs were to change on the second system or tweaks on the first system to be able to shift sites as appropriate, but still stay within the design specification of each mound system.
So this is Tim speaking. So changing the way you're doing this, the original sizing still accommodates what you're proposing.
Right, 25 campsites.
Okay.
And this is Veronica speaking. As you mentioned in your application, the septic systems are remaining in the same locations that we approved by variance 30-V23.
Correct.
Okay.
This is Tim. Eric, would the applicant be able to propose a phase 3 if he wanted to when he decides to get into phase 2? Let's say, for instance, he did the campgrounds and then the expense of or timing of building the guest cabin didn't work out to do that, and or maybe one or the other, but put in the whole septic system. But let's just say that, would he be able to come back to request an amendment for a phase 3?
Yes, yeah, you could do it that way. It's all gonna depend on what the proposed condition, if modified, what that modified language would state, as to whether he could do that with that modification or if it would require an amendment. But worst case, if it required an amendment, then he could always come back and seek that again for that condition to be modified
Okay.
in the future.
Okay.
You know, the county's main concern with septic systems, when you have a use that generates sewage, is we want to make sure the septic system's in place and passes inspection before the use is allowed to occur. So that's why that initial condition was placed. That's kind of a standard condition when you have uses that generate sewage, so you don't run the risk of sewage being generated and not going into a septic system.
Okay.
And this is Veronica speaking. Question for the applicant, Mr. Solien. Do you have, by phasing these out, what is your time frame looking like as far as installing your septic systems?
As of now, the intent is to get the first septic system in this year.
And then you plan on doing the second one in the year following?
Probably a little bit later, depending on what the business looks like. There's 25 sites, so I want to first, get to close capacity on the first one before phasing in new sites and building out the second system.
Okay, to my understanding, and we can get some clarification on this, because of the sunset clause that we have on the CUPs for the applying for the operating permit for each phase, I believe at this time your started January 16th, 2024, when the Hubbard County Commissioners approved your CUP. So that 2-year starts January 16th. So you would still have 24 and 25. I guess you would have until, because you won't be able to do anything in in the winter time anyhow, as far as the septic goes. So do you understand that you do have a 2-year deadline, so to speak?
Operational? Or,
Yes, to be able to get that permit for that, yes.
yeah, it'd put in
Correct.
first system and become operational.
For just that, but I mean entirely for both systems.
Well, I guess that was my understanding, that both systems would have to be completely in to get the permit.
Well, you have to have the system, well, unless, I can get clarification also, but to my understanding, both systems must be installed within the 2-year sunset. Am I correct, Eric?
The way the current condition 9 is worded, correct.
Right, even the revised condition that, or just, you mean just this current one? Just what he has currently, as in what we're amending? With the revised condition that we have, how does that give us on the 2 years? Does it still fall under the 2 years?
Well, that's just staff's recommendation for a starting point in the staff report, so we've not done a phased operating permit before, not to say that we couldn't. So we could do it that way, to say you need a separate operating permit for phase 1 and then another for phase 2. Or the way the ordinance is worded, it states that the operating permit must be obtained within 2 years of the approval date prior to the use commencing. So it just says the use must commence. It doesn't say the entire proposed use must commence. So that to me indicates that it considers the potential for a phased approach. You could have a resort that's expanding and they want to do it in stages, and as long as they start the expansion within 2 years, it doesn't say the whole thing must be complete within
Completed.
that 2 years.
So as long as he starts that phase 2 part then within the 2-year time?
Not necessarily, it could just be that he starts it,
Phase 1.
yes. Yep.
So then does that leave this open-ended, sort of, or to have like an indefinite?
There is no other condition on the CUP that addresses timelines, so the septic is the only one currently that does. So it's up to the,
Members?
right.
Okay, so I guess that would be a question for my members that we either can discuss and then make recommendations to the Hubbard County Commissioners, as well as if we need to implement a deadline or leave this open-ended for some indefinite possibilities.
Well, because this is Tim speaking, I think, not knowing where he's gonna be in business in 2 years, I just don't wanna put a time constraint
Correct.
on him.
I understand.
So I would be in favor of leaving his second phase open as long as he was the owner, I guess. I don't know.
Do any other members have any concerns or?
This is Mike. I'm okay with leaving it open, as long as that first phase starts. He still would need, if he started the second phase before he could use it, he still needs
Permit?
to pass all of the county ordinances for a septic system, so we have some, I don't know what you want to call it, there'll be compliance before he can become operational in phase 2. So I'm okay with leaving it open-ended on phase 2.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions before I open to public comment? None? Okay. Then at this time, I would like to open for public comment. If anybody has public comment. Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
one more question for the applicant for me. These two septic systems designs are not going to change, is that correct? What's been approved is still what would be installed, even though it's going to a phased approach?
The location is staying the same, the overall capacity is still the same. The only thing that could change is the placement of the tanks to help line up because of the change of the 25 sites.
Okay, thank you.
But the placement of the tanks will still be in the same location.
Same
It's just-
location, correct.
yes. Okay. Okay. And as we commented, the size of the two septic systems will service the campground, will not change. There's no environmental harm caused by allowing the campground use to commence in the proposed phased approach. Let's see. I would just like to read aloud the possible condition and make sure everybody is understanding and that the applicant himself understands. So for number 9, the modified staffed draft would be, the applicant proposes commencing the RV campground use into 2 phases. First phase will consist of constructing and then operating campsites 1 through 24 and 32 as labeled on drawing number C4, revised number 0 in the conditional use permit application. After phase 1 is operational, phase 2 work will consist of constructing and then operating campsites 29, 30, 33 through 41, 43 through 45, and then the 1,500 square foot brick-built cabin, stick-built cabin located immediately east of campsite 24 and the shower house as labeled on drawing number C4 and revised number 0 in the conditional use permit application. The subsurface sewage treatment system that will service the campsites in phase 1 must be permitted, installed, and pass county inspection before the conditional use permit operating permit will be used. The SSTS that will service the campsites, the cabin, and the shower house in phase 2 must be permitted, installed, and pass county inspection before the phase 2 campsites, cabin, and shower house can begin to be used as part of the campground use. Do you understand that?
I understand what you read. I would like to see, clarify to make sure I'm understanding. With the phase 2, am I allowed the ability to have flexibility on what is on that system and when it's brought on?
Flexibility as in the date time,
For example, if I were to decide not to move forward with a cabin or a shower house, but bring on additional campsites.
at this time, I don't believe there any additional campsites are allowed by his conditional use permit without any type of amendment.
Right, you know,
Well, the sites, the original plan had sites where they weren't having septic systems.
Oh, yes.
If I continue not to use, leverage a shower house and continue to use full-service sites, that would give a capacity on potentially one of the 2 of the systems to bring additional sites on that originally were not.
Eric, I would take guidance on that one as far as if he wants to change configurations.
I could be wrong, but it sounds like Mr. Solien is asking whether he could take campsites that in the original CUP application were proposed to be not full hookups and to have their sewage placed into the dump station, converted to being able to have full hookups and go into a septic system, not that he's asking for a change in the number of campsites or their locations.
And get, more information on as far as the septic allowances or daily allowances and stuff, to change up the designs and the daily.
As long as what he would, I don't have an issue, and there's nothing in the CUP currently that would say you can't take a originally proposed site that would be primitive without sewer hookup and turn it into one that has sewer hookup. So as long as he can provide a septic design showing that that's able to be done with the 2 locations of the septics that we have the designs for it, that's not a problem
Right.
in my mind.
Okay, so do you understand that if you make any changes or to any of the campsites, either adding or removing, you have to go through the environmental services office with the septic and get the proper designs and permits and such like that,
That part I'm completely fine with.
correct? Okay.
Madam Chair, may I ask a
Yes,
question?
yes.
This is Steve. Are you saying that you would perhaps put those campsites online that are gonna be, I'll call them dry campsites, in lieu of the cabin or the shower house, or plus the cabin and the shower house?
Some of the things that I would look at is the actual flows. After you have some time period, you can see what your actual flows are, and the state allows you then to bring additional campsites onto the original system, because you've been able to prove that maybe it's only an average of 25 gallons per day. And so there's capacity, so I could look at and want to put some systems back onto, like, system one, which then may allow me to bring some of the dry campsites, we'll call, on a system two. Or may want to move the cabin to system one. So I just want to have some flexibility and option on the table to do what's most economical as well, with staying in the constraints of the system.
As long as everything is under capacity.
Right, as long as it's
All right,
within
thank you.
capacity, I just want some of that flexibility to do that, because I may not know what that is until you actually have some of that usage and find out what the flows are.
Sure, yeah, and you weren't asking to increase capacities, you were just looking at flexibility of moving from a dry to a different style.
Right, or moving some campsites onto one and then bringing some of those on, so just didn't want to get locked in a specific design that has to be, so where I'd have to come back and ask, you know, these three I need here, so I can bring these three over here onto this one.
Okay, Eric, this is Veronica speaking. Since the applicant has provided documentation showing exactly which sites he has and which ones are hooked up to the specific septic systems, is the applicant able to switch things around, move things around without revising his CUP application?
Oh,
I mean, as far as, because what we've approved previously was what we had drafted in front of us with all of the septic designs.
Yeah, so what he's asking for is the flexibility to not have to put both septic systems in order to get the operating permit, and only instead install the system for the campsites that he wants to begin with, so that he can get the operating permit, start operating, get a year of data on the water usage, because without that, the state septic rules require that he size those hookup sites at 100 gallons a day. If his actual water usage after a year of operating shows that it's less than that, then that actual number that's smaller than 100 could be used to determine what the campsite water usage is. And that's why he's saying that once he gets that information, he might then have reason to want to add some other sites into that first system, play around a little bit with what goes where. So that part makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
From our standpoint, we want to, on the things that matter, you want to lock that in with documenting those items in a condition or conditions. But there's also places where it doesn't really matter, isn't going to have a big environmental impact, and I would say that's the case with his asking to be able to take some unsewered sites and possibly tie them into a septic system if the actual flow allows that. To me, it makes more environmental sense to have a full hookup site than it does to have one that doesn't.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. And I do see the reason that you're asking the question. It is reasonable. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just for my own clarification, if the applicant makes the decision that after having the data and showing lesser amount, is there a trigger where, and he decides to take some additional campsites into it, does that require him to contact your office prior to doing that? Because he's changing from the standard formula to the, possibly a different formula based on actual use?
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's exactly where I was trying to the point I was trying to get. I do understand with Eric's clarification on if you're making and modifying and adjusting the septic system based on your flow and what your needs are. So I do understand that. But as you heard from Mike, if you do any changes or make any changes, then you would always have to contact the Environmental Service Office first and get everything approved. Okay, anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Okay, is anyone ready to make a motion, or I can proceed?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'm ready to make a motion to approve the 1-CU24 modified draft as the revised condition number 9 as read, and the findings of facts except numbers 1, 2, and 3 of the staff, but modify number 4 as follows. Before either phase of the campground use can commence operation, strike by having a conditional use permit, operating permit must be issued. The septic system servicing that phase must be permitted, installed, and pass county inspection.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mike.
This is Larry, I second that.
Okay. Mike made a recommendation to approve the condition number 9 as read previously to the Hubbard County Board of Commissioners. Larry seconded the motion, and we accepted the findings of facts 1 through 3 and modified number 4. I will take a vote at this time. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
This is Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
This is Mike, I vote aye.
And myself, this is Veronica, I vote aye. And your condition improvement, or, I mean, modification for condition number 9 has been approved, or recommended approval, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
There is no old business, so we will move on to new business. Variance Application 3-B-24 by Kevin Muehler, part of Lot 1, Block 1, Richaven Pines Edition, Section 12, Township 140, Range 33, Nevis Township on 8th Crow Wing Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 21.56.00200. Applicant is requesting a variance from Section 507.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to have a mechanized lift in addition to an existing stairway for accessing the lake through a bluff impact zone, and to place the landing at the top of the lift that exceeds 32 square feet in area. Okay, and thank you, sir. If you could please state your name and address.
My name is Kevin Muehler, and the variance is applicable to the 20107 Fauna Drive in Nevis, Minnesota, 56467.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Can you please go ahead and just give us a description of your request?
My variance request is to install a mechanical lift from the top of my bluff down to the dock section. That's removed and replaced every year. And also for a larger than 32 square foot bluff platform.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, during the lot views, for myself, even though your 5'12" request landing wasn't staked out, we did discuss the size of the cottage carrier, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what size landing was actually needed to exit the carriage based upon the only way you can exit.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you considered any changes to your 5 by 12 request?
Yes, I have, ma'am. I ended up speaking with the installer because I think when you all were out there for the site visit, I didn't really know if there was something specific as to if in fact the lift needed to be so far away from the stairwell, the stairs going down to the lake. And when I contacted him, he said that there really isn't any type of a requirement as to in code or anything, So basically, I would like to request that I change that addition onto the platform area that's existing there that goes down to the water. What I would like to do is I know that you had made reference to adding a spur type of a deal to gain access to the lift. The other thing I would like to add is that in speaking with the installer, he indicated also that I'm required to put a railing around that platform. And there's actually a gate that gets installed on the platform so that when the lift is at the bottom, there's a gate there so somebody can't just walk off the platform. So I'm required to put this gate there and the railing around the whole entire platform. But what I would like to do is that my bottom platform, I think I mentioned it, is that it's going to be my dock. So basically you can get onto the platform on top of the bluff with a wheelchair or with a walker, whatever, go all the way down, and then you get off right on the dock. So what I was thinking is that I would like to be able to move my dock, because right now when I installed that dock platform area, I usually go about 1 foot on the right-hand side as you're looking down, but I could actually move that dock section over to have 4 foot on the right-hand side of the steps, and then my 4 foot for my steps, and then have 2 foot, and then change my request to go for a 2 foot by 12 foot addition onto my existing deck that's there. And then that way, as per, because I had reviewed your staff report and so forth, so that would really only, because you were gonna add like a 4 foot by 5 foot spur onto there. And if I were to go with a 2 foot by 12 foot, it's only 4 more square feet. And then that way, it's easier for me to put the railing versus going around the spur type deal, you know, and then putting the gate on the spur end of it. This way, I can just add it right onto my straight railing. That would be, you know, so then that would be a 6 foot by 12 foot platform area. Because there's 4 foot there existing, and then just add 2 foot onto it. So, I mean, I'm still not against doing the spur, but I was just kind of throwing this out there to see if in fact that would be workable for the board. Only because of the fact I have to put the railing on and a platform gate.
Kevin, this is Larry. So just for clarification, so you are asking to connect the 2 top decking portions, platforms? And
Yes.
what would the total size of that then be?
Well, I have existing there is 4 foot wide by 12 foot.
Okay.
And then I would add another 2 foot by 12 foot. Because when I was out there, I didn't know for sure. I just didn't want to have the lift right next to the steps, because if you have people walking up and down the steps, they could sit there and grab onto the carriage or something, and I didn't want a pinch point type of a deal, but evidently, without there being a requirement as to how far you need to be away from the steps, I'm proposing that I can be 2 foot away from the steps, and then that way I don't need to add the 5 foot by 12 foot onto the existing deck area, platform area. Did that make sense for you? So basically then it would be, instead of the 5 foot 12,
2 by 12.
it would be 2 by 12. So it would be a total of 6 by 12 is what it would be.
Okay.
And that would be like 72 square feet. So that would be the variance where it's over 32 square feet. Versus what I was proposing was 108 square feet.
That walkway, Eric, this is Tim speaking, counts as that 32 square feet, that path to his dock?
You can look at it one of 2 ways. You could either say that's a landing at the top of the stairs, or you could also look at that as being the 4 foot wide sidewalk that's allowed, so.
Right. So he'd be asking for 24 square feet variance. Wouldn't need it then if we looked at it that way.
It's admittedly a little gray as to what do you call landing, what do you call sidewalk when you get into these situations where they wanna add some width to it.
That, when that landing comes up, the cage that carries you,
Yes.
how far up past that top of the steps does it come back towards me on this picture?
That's the part I don't know. I don't know how far it's going to come up. I've never
From the
had
ones
this.
I've seen, they come up and as soon as they're flat, they stop. You know, they're flat coming up, but when they're flat with the walkway.
My guess is it'll be just slightly past the last step. is where that will stop. They won't, because it'll level out there, because otherwise they carry it out and
When you're up in the air.
Right,
they're
so
up-
it's,
either up in the air, or they have to make a drastic change in the rail system to go from an angle to flat.
yeah.
As soon as
So
it's
as
flat.
soon as it gets to the landing
Stops,
part,
yeah.
it should be pretty fairly stopped and
Yes.
able to come off. And that's the hard part for me, is because if you look at it technically, he can get he can do a little 4x5 spur at the edge there, just right at the edge, without a variance that would be sufficient to exit. Instead of adding, a strip down the side. So that's kind of the hard part for number 3, is that you can most likely achieve what you need to exit the carriage by that part.
I have a picture, that's kind of one that they have installed. I don't know if that would help if you were to, there's some pictures here, but, I don't know.
Could you pass those around?
Right, yeah, because you mentioned needing a gate around it, and I don't have that information.
Yeah, because you can see the.
A railing around the gate.
Back there. That's what I need to install on the railing. Evidently, that's code, that state of Minnesota, or I don't know, it might not be code with the county, but state of Minnesota, according to the installer, that's kind of like an elevator lift code or something, I don't know.
I don't know, my observations, I think, wherever they decide to terminate the highest level on the top, a 4x4 platform that could be obtained by permit would suffice to get, to build
Entrance.
everything that's needed. Are you proposing any changes to the bottom?
No, the bottom's basically gonna stay the same,
Okay, thank you.
because I have the flexibility of moving the dock either way.
Well, while Tim's looking at that photo, I will go ahead and move forward a little bit as far as I am in favor, well, actually, I'm going to open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close public comment, and then I'll proceed. I am in favor of the lift, as it is definitely in a steep slope bluff impact area. As we were out there, there's definitely, I could see a need for that. I do have some concerns, and as I've mentioned earlier, that, there could be a possibility that he can receive what his needs are. His needs could be met by the 4x4 or even a 4x5 spur on there. I think he can still achieve what he needs to exit and enter the carriage itself, and that can be done by permit. So I'm definitely not in favor of a 5-foot by 12-foot landing. I think the 2x12 is still even a little excessive. So I would be open to hearing what some of my other members have to say.
This is Tim speaking. I agree with you. I'm in favor of the lift. I wouldn't want to be stranded down there without any power getting back up and not have the stairs. So I'm in favor of that, and I think he can manage by permit if we consider that the walkway path from the house.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and if he
So-
puts it at, at the end there, then it would be still very much like a 90-degree turn on a sidewalk.
I agree.
So, okay. Well, then, anybody prepared to make a motion?
This is Mike. I'll make the motion that we approve Part 1 of the variance application and accept the staff's findings of fact. And can I do them both at once and deny the second part of the application and accept the staff findings of fact on that?
Does anyone have a second?
This is Tim. I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, Mike made a motion to approve Part 1, the lift of the application, and accept the staff's findings of fact, and deny Part 2 of the application with the 5x12 platform, and accept the staff's findings of facts. Tim seconded the motion. At this time, I will take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim. I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
This is Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. You will receive a decision letter from the Environmental Services Office telling you exactly what was approved and what was denied. And you will also still need to need permits for anything that needs to be built. They'll
So
give you
then
those.
basically, just so that I understand then, so then now I need to move forward with a 4-foot by 5-foot on a permit basis then? Is that what I need to do then, or what?
It wouldn't require a permit as long as you like did a 90-degree, 4-foot wide connection from
Okay.
the carriage to the current walkway that you've got. That,
Okay, being that's under 32 square feet.
and it would be viewed as just a kind of a 90-degree connection, sidewalk connection to the existing wooden sidewalk that you have leading to your stairs.
Okay, but that could be up to 32 square feet then, right? Because 4 by 5 would be 20 feet.
It didn't look to me like you'd need to go more than 3 feet max between where the carriage will wind up being located in relation to the existing walkway. So as long as it's 4 foot wide, connecting to that, I don't see it going a length greater than 3 feet, more than likely to
Okay,
tie in. But
okay,
we can
so I
help.
can do like a 3-foot by 5-foot then, is what I can do then?
Well, do 4 foot wide and then
Or 4-foot
Whatever.
wide by 5-foot?
I don't think you're gonna need 5 feet lengthwise. I think it'll be 2 feet more than likely, but if it goes longer, it can, but we can help you with the details of that once you know where the lift is actually gonna get placed.
Okay, so then I don't require to have a permit then? I can just go ahead and do that then, or do I need to?
That part, correct. You will need a permit for the lift.
Yeah, the lift, but I'm saying that the extension, the 90-degree deal, I don't need to have a permit for that.
Correct.
And I can go like up to 4 foot out to the lift and 5 foot back. Is that,
No, you'd go, when you turn off the current walkway that you have and go 90 degrees, then that would be 4 foot wide, same as what your current walkway is. It's just at a 90.
okay, 4 foot wide by 5 foot deep?
If you need that much depth,
I need that much.
don't
I can
think
go
you
up
will.
to that.
But where you had your proposed flags was right next to the existing steps going down.
A couple feet is probably gonna be all you're gonna need.
Right.
Yeah, and this is Veronica speaking. I would definitely seek guidance, as it seems as though you're unsure of what you're allowed there. So definitely nothing past the 4 feet. And most,
Out from the,
from your step, so your 90-degree angle is gonna be 4 feet
Okay.
wide, just like your steps currently are 4 feet wide. Your walkway is 4 feet wide.
yep.
So that turn is gonna be 4 feet wide.
Right.
Most likely, it's only gonna be 4 by 4 or 4 by 3, not 4 by 5. Most likely.
Well, the gate that there's 36 inches, the gate that I have to install there to open up to get onto the carriage is 36 inches.
Okay, well, you'll have 48 inches to work within if you go 4x4,
Madam Chair,
correct?
my suggestion would be when you come in to get the permit for the lift, you come prepared to have with drawings on what you want the platform to be with environmental services. That way they can say, yes, you're within its permit, you don't need a permit for that. Or if you have the design wrong, they can say, no, you're allowed this. So I think the check-in with environmental services will answer all your questions.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, moving on. Variance application 4-V-24 by Ben and Tammy Ott, part of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, section 24, township 140, range 33, Nevis Township, parcel 21.28.01900. The applicants are requesting a variance from section 4 of the subdivision ordinance to subdivide a property by administrative subdivision within 5 years of the previous administrative subdivision of the property. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, sir, you may please announce your name.
Hey, Terry Freeman with Northern Engineering, authorized agent for Ben and Tammy Ott.
Okay,
And that should be section 28, not section 24. Unless I misheard. I thought
It
you
is,
read-
it is written 28.
okay, I may have read
We've
24,
got it
so
written
thank you, though.
correctly.
Okay, and please go ahead and state your request.
Okay, the Ben and Tammy Ott got the west 30 acres of this quarter section with an easement from the north and west in 2017. In 2021, they did an administrative subdivision on the north end of the property. They established a 2.5 acre parcel in the northeast corner, a 2.25 acre parcel in the center of the north end, and a 5.1 acre parcel in the northwest part of that. Mr. Ott came to me, he's gonna plat the remainder of the property, but seeing he had an easement to this northwest part of where parcel 1, what we're proposing, he'd like to utilize that easement. That was his easement to the 30 acres that he got on the west side of the property. At a separate time, he got the east 10 acres bordering County Road 33. And the enhancement track 2 would be for the property owner to the west of that. He has built his house really close to the line, and he just wants a buffer there. And that little triangle in the center north part would be added to the north, to the parcel north of that for better access to that parcel. Right where that curve is where the road will come in off of 33 and turn and go south. And when he does the plat, he'll have 3 lots on the west side and 4 lots on the east side of that plat. But we couldn't leave this parcel 1 out by itself without a 66-foot access to it in the plat. So he's utilizing the 33-foot access that he was granted when he bought that west 30 acres of the 40.
Okay, so thank you. So just for clarification, the main reason to retain and submit this for parcel 1 is to retain the 33-foot easement instead of a 66-foot easement that, or road right-of-way that you would need in the plat.
Correct.
Okay, so what is the plan B if the subdivision is denied?
I suppose he'd have to add it to his parcel that'll be to the east of that. Between parcel 1 and his road will be another lot that meets the standards. So he'd have to make it a conforming lot, but then the easement in the back, that,
Just wouldn't be needed,
right.
because
but
you'd
he-
be able to access it from the plat road.
Right,
correct?
but his plans are to do 3 lots down that west side that are, about 3 acres each. And.
And parcel 1 is how many acres?
Otherwise, this would be like 5 to 6 acres if he had to add parcel 1 into his other lot.
This is Tim. Is this the same applicant requesting this? Did he create that easement?
No, that was given to him when Potlatch had the property and sold the Otts, the west 30 acres with that easement.
And is this easement being used now as a road?
It's being used, in fact, to the north of that, it's labeled 247th Street. That road comes down almost a half a mile from the north off of 174th Street. And it serves 4 other properties along there.
So where that 247th Street stops, there's a road that goes through them trees down to this northwest corner of,
Yes, it goes down to that house right where the arrow
Oh,
is right
okay.
now.
Yep.
But there is a little spur that comes off onto the Otts property. You can kind of see an opening
Okay.
through the wood right there.
This is Veronica speaking. What did the applicant plan on doing with parcel one once if it gets approved?
That would be sold to an individual.
So if it was actually platted, it could still be sold to an individual if it was in the platting process.
Yes, it would just be a much larger lot.
And you said it's almost 5 acres?
It would be 5 to 6 acres if he had to add it up to the road. Right now, it's 3 acres. It would almost double in size by making it go over to the road and not use the access, not use the easement.
So you're currently, jumping ahead, looking at platting, you're looking at platting what size lots?
3 to 5 acres.
3 to 5 acres, and this one's really close to 5? So we're not that different. I mean, you just said it was 5 acres.
It would be 5 to 6, I guess I didn't calculate exactly what it would be. It'd be 5 to 6 acres if
And these other lots that are proposing to be platted in the near future are going to be 3 to 5 acres.
3 to 5, right?
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions from the members before I open for public comment? Okay, all right. At this time, I'm going to open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close. Do we have any questions or?
Madam Chair, just so I understand, if it were denied and parcel one would have to become part of the plat, would that mean one less parcel on this chunk of property then?
I guess that lot would have access from both ways, off the platted road and off using that easement.
Right.
Would the size of parcel one stay the same either way?
No, parcel one, if it was denied to be able to create parcel one through administrative subdivision, that would have to be added to the plat, to the lot bordering the road. And then that would it would double in size.
So in fact, it would mean one less lot? If looking at that in totality, how many lots are being proposed for what's labeled remainder parcel?
There will be 7 lots there.
And if this is denied, would there still be 7, but parcel one would be included then?
Yes.
So parcel one won't be bumped up to number 8?
No.
It wouldn't have access. We don't have 66 feet to it. To plat it, we were told you needed a 66-foot access to it.
But you haven't started all of your roads yet. Why couldn't you make a road to it? I mean, the platting procedure hasn't begun yet, so I don't understand why you can't make access to it.
For the layout of the way it best fits where the road should go in the middle of that eastern part, it creates better access to each of the other 7 lots that will be made.
And from an owner's standpoint, I can sell parcel one today. Otherwise, I have to wait for the platting process, which is gonna be 4 or 5 hearings.
But real soon. but possibly very soon. I mean, when are you planning to plat the process? I mean, I was out there during lot views and I could see that the roads have already been starting to be developed and you've already got clearing going on. So when do you plan on starting the platting process?
If we go forward with the administrative subdivision to create parcel 1, then that would take that out of the remainder tract, and then we would start the plat right away,
Like, do you have a time frame?
like the next month.
The next month? And you said for Plan B that you would have to include it in there if it was denied.
Right.
So there's a possibility that could be included. I'm just having difficulties on the request because it's not in harmony with the subdivision ordinance's intent of the administrative process.
I disagree because subdividing this is not gonna negatively affect the future development of the remainder. And when this was purchased, it could have been that that was always in the plan to use, and that's why I bought it, because that easement was gonna be given to me on this property. So from my standpoint,
Because you didn't have access from County Road 13.
but still, he may change his mind tomorrow of going that way and wait 5 years and not go through a plat. So it's really about the easement. Because, which,
Yeah, I don't know where 247th Street officially ends, if it ends down at that house at the bottom, or, you know, at the northwest corner of this property, or, and it's probably not a township road because it's a 33-foot easement.
So this is Veronica speaking. Again, the applicant has said that the main reason that they don't want us, that they want to subdivide this now this way is to utilize the 33-foot easement over the neighboring property instead of using the 66-foot that's required in a plat. I personally am having difficulties because the applicants plan to plat the rest of the property. They've gone through there and already clearing and making the 66-foot road right-of-ways for the other properties. I don't understand why they can't, in my opinion, I don't see why they can't just make another 66-foot road to that. It's the same size. The applicant said that it was going to still be 5 or 6 acres. And all of these other lots are anywhere between 3 to 6 acres. The only thing that's keeping them is the 33-foot easement access over the neighboring property.
and it makes a difference if I have 2 lots on each side of that. I don't see the plat, but if I did, I might not want a 60-foot, 66 between me and my neighbor right there for a guy that's up in the corner. It does have an element of privacy, I guess. It could, but I don't know what the plan is for that. I haven't seen that proposed plat.
We weren't gonna start the plat until the administrative subdivision was complete.
So there could be a property created with 2 lots without a car going through and plowing through and utilities through and.
This is Mike. Yeah, I guess what I see is that utilizing the existing easement for parcel 1, whether it's in the plat or not, can still be used.
True.
But by letting them do the administrative, it essentially means one more lot in that property by doing it this way versus denying it. Then to the right, or which would be to the east of parcel 1, that boundary would increase till it hits the road, and that would become parcel 1. It's one less lot is what I see.
Right, and that lot would have access from 2 ways. It would have a 66-foot road on the
Right.
east side, and it would still have this 33-foot road that's that there's a opening right to the property right now. So he would.
I guess I have no problem with this being approved based on, if he did nothing, we'd look at it and say it's fine. And if he does the plat, sure, it would be included, but the plat would have one less lot, and the lots are all 3 to 5 acres, and it would just make one more bigger lot and one less 3-acre lot in that plat, so.
Mr. Ott, if you would like to speak, as the applicant, you may come to the chair and you may speak.
Just real briefly.
Have him identify himself.
Yeah, I will. Yep, and Mr. Ott, will you please just identify your name and your address for the record,
Benjamin
stating your...
W. Ott.
Thank you.
I live on County Road 13, 17075, Nevis 56467. Anyways, what I could do is I could create the same amount of lots with parcel 1, but what would end up happening is all the parcels would be a little bit smaller, which doesn't necessarily make sense either, to create an easement or a 66-foot way to get to parcel 1, and that would create the other 2 lots actually to be smaller. I don't think that would make a lot of sense either. So, and when I originally purchased the property, the only way to get to that 30 acres was that 33-foot easement from Potlatch. So, because there was no access from County Road 13 to that property. So technically, I'm only using that 33-foot easement now for 1 lot, not multiple lots. If I could go that direction if I wanted to too, and I don't think that would be the best usage of that 33-foot easement.
Anybody else have any other comments or questions for the applicant and the authorized agent? Number 3 is the most difficult question for anybody to come up with the findings of fact. Is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners?
The legal easement from the northwest parcel to 1 was created by prior owners to specifically provide access to this property. By following Hubbard County ordinance guidelines, a future platted access road will leave that small irregular piece would be basically useless, and that's why he wants to add it to that other parcel. So I understand enhancement track 1, and enhancement track 2 is to increase the buffer for the neighbor that's encroaching.
Or he could wait 2 more years and do parcel 1 as administrative subdivision when his 5 years run.
Yeah.
But he's got a potential buyer for parcel 1. Somebody's interested in parcel 1 right now.
And I actually would have done parcel 1 originally when I did the subdivision, but honestly, the gentleman that helped me out and did it all, said I couldn't do anymore. So that's why it didn't happen at that time, where it would have. So, there is that.
Are you ready for a motion?
I am. Go ahead.
This is Tim. I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Okay.
4B-24. Number 1, I'll do the findings. Number 1 is variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. Yes, this subdivision request will not negatively affect the future plat of the remainder of the property and will maintain the intent of the ordinance. Number 2 is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control. Yes, the variance for this subdivision application will allow an irregular parcel labeled Enhancement Tract 1 to be better used by the property to the north. Enhancement Tract 2 will make the adjoining property to the west more compliant with the county ordinance of setbacks. And the creation of Parcel 1 will utilize an existing access easement, leaving 23.8 buildable acres to be developed in the future, and making all the requested subdivisions reasonable. Number 3 is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners. Yes, the legal easement coming in from the northwest was created by prior owners, potlatch, for an entire 30 acres that had no other access to it. That's why the easement was given. And by following the Hubbard County Ordinance Guidelines, a future platted access road will leave that small point of land useless but better serves the land to the north. And creation of the enhancement 2 will clean up the west neighboring property encroachment issues. And I would adopt staff's 4 and 5.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I have a quick question on a possible condition, if it's even just a thought. Since the applicants said that they are going to submit a plat in the near future, would you be open to putting a condition on there and a date of when this plat needs to be created for the remainder tract? Just to keep things moving.
No, I guess I wouldn't, only because he's got the opportunity to use that 5-year. Maybe maybe he'd have somebody that would wait to do it to have more privacy. I don't know. I see it's already started.
Correct, yeah. Okay, just was curious, thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a second?
This is Larry, I second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the application, the subdivision, administrative subdivision application for that Parcel 1 and the enhanced tracts with the findings of facts 1 through 3 that Tim had provided, and adopting the findings of facts staff for 4 and 5. Larry seconded the motion. I will take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is myself, I vote aye. Your motion has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can submit the administrative subdivision and the documents and then start the plat.
You had very good facts for that parcel.
I knew you were gonna ask that. I was waiting for you.
Okay, moving on. Variance Application 5-V-24 by Thomas and Kathy Gee. Part of Government Lot 4, part of Government Lot 2, Section 1, Township 145, Range 32, Fardin Township on Wolf Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 07.01.01200. The applicants are requesting an after-the-fact variance from Section 506 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed guest cottage on a lot that doesn't meet the 150-foot minimum lot width at the ordinary high water mark. Do we have the applicants here? Okay, it does not appear that we have the applicants for this application. We can discuss it amongst the members if we would like to continue this application. as we are allowed to do so with the information given to us, or if we would like to table it to give the applicant an opportunity due to the weather circumstances that we have today.
Madam Chair, could we possibly hold it off till the end in case somebody
Sure.
does show up?
Absolutely. Does that sound like a plan for everyone? Okay. Then at this time, we were just going to move forward. We're going to put this application at the end of the meeting, just in case the applicants show up due to the weather circumstances. Okay, then we are going to move on to variance application 6-B-24 by Scott and Susan Muehler. Lot 1, Block 2, Liberty Ridge, Section 12, Township 140, Range 33, Nevis Township on 8th Crow Wing Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 21.69.00300. The applicants are requesting a variance from Section 507.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to have a mechanized lift in addition to an existing stairway for accessing the lake, and to have a landing that exceeds the maximum 32 square foot allowed for such. Thank you, sir. If you want to go ahead and state your name.
My name is Kevin Muehler. I'm the authorizing agent for Scott and Susie Muehler. The variance is for a mechanical lift from the top of bluff down to a landing that's on the bottom of the bluff. And the top landing is over the 32 square foot allowance.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Mr. Mueller, did you go ahead and state your address too?
Oh, excuse me. The address is 20332 269th Avenue in Nevis, Minnesota, 56467.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and again, we've, during the lot views, we discussed that there, even though 4x6 landing wasn't staked on the property so that we could visually see exactly what the request was, we do have photo documentation in your application. Again, we're kind of a little bit questioning on the smaller landing, but the 4x6 is a bit smaller. And it would possibly attach to their current 4x6. So, and I would anticipate that it would be the same construction, similar to what we saw there, just a wood platform, just like what they already have existing.
To include a platform gate also.
Yes, yes.
The platform gate for the access to the cart, the carriage.
Okay. Okay, do I have any questions from the staff? Or I'm sorry, the members?
This is Mike. It's my understanding that a violation letter has been written on this property. And so even if we approve this application today, it can't be permitted until the violations are taken care of?
That is correct, yes, sir. Yes, so I'm not sure if you were aware that there were some violations that were discovered during lot views? Okay, yep. And so during our lot views, I heard you mention that you actually have the lift company scheduled to come and start installation if things were approved in May, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you know that that's questionable if that would be appropriate for this particular property.
Right,
If you
right,
don't have the violations
Right.
corrected or,
right.
okay. Okay. If there's not any other questions at this time, just for the record, I'd like to go ahead and open for public comment. And seeing none, I will close public comment. And this is Veronica again, still speaking. I don't have any problems with the, this request at this time. As the staff report has indicated, the bluff on this lot has roughly a 55% slope and a 48-foot over the rise and 86-foot run. The proposed location of the lift will utilize that existing opening. So very little brush or vegetation will be removed. The application states that there's 90-plus steps. We did not utilize the steps at that time, but I take it that it was very steep. placing that lift alongside the stairs of the existing opening is an appropriate spot, so I appreciate utilizing that same open area. So I am supportive of this application. I think that maybe a condition that it just cannot exceed 4 by 6 as requested would be appropriate. Or at least a motion that's made that's specific to the site plan and the size.
Yep, Tim, I agree.
Yep, okay. Well, like we discussed, if this gets forward and gets approved, because of the violations that were discovered, permits will not be acquired until all violations are corrected. So just be sure that, keep that in mind to contact your company and don't start building that lift prior to that. You don't want to have any more after the fact stuff, so.
So will the variance get approved, and then we just can't submit the other permits, the land use permit and the vegetation permit, until the violations are cleared up? Is that
Correct, yes, you cannot start building the lift, can't get the, right, cannot even attain. Okay. All right,
This is Mike, I'm prepared to make a motion.
okay, thank you, Mike, go right ahead.
This is Mike, I make the motion that we approve the application as written, which includes an additional 4 by 6 landing to connect to the existing walkway at the top of the stairs, and with the understanding also that, again, the permits can't be issued until violations are cleared up with environmental services, and I'll accept the staff's findings of fact.
Okay, this is Veronica, I second the motion. Okay, Mike made a motion to approve the application with the condition that it cannot exceed the 4 by 6 as in the site plan, and also noting the violations and permitting. And I second the motion. I'll take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
This is Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is myself, Veronica, I vote aye. The application is approved. Again, you'll receive a decision letter from the Environmental Services Office for that. Okay, Variance Application 7-V-24 by Legacy Acres LLC. The northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of the south half of the southwest quarter, Section 29, Township 140, Range 35, Township, or Todd Township, Parcel 27.29.01200. The applicants are requesting a variance from Section 4, Subdivision A1, B1 of the subdivision ordinance to create a tract that does not fully comply with the 300-foot minimum lot width requirement. So, thank you, sir. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Tony Becker. Address is 11400 170th Street, Park Rapids.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Becker. And just please give us a brief description of your variance request.
We're trying to separate the residential property from the irrigated field property, to maintain so there's no property markers out in the middle of the field.
Thank you, sir. This is Veronica speaking. During the lot views, the applicant showed us where the triangular shape of the tract would be, and wanting to stay off of the field work, which basically is the reason why we're requesting this odd shape and not meeting the 300 minimum width requirement on that little section there. And so that's the main reason. Otherwise, the application meets all other requirements. And I totally understand the need and not wanting to have your property line out in the middle of the field. So. Does anyone have any comments, questions for the applicant? And for the record, Todd Township has its own ordinance and has approved the proposed subdivision as well, and documentation was included in the application. If we don't have any questions at this time, for the record, I will go ahead and open for public comment. And seeing none, I will close public comment. Again, just for some supportive statements, there's plenty of room on the lot to be able to have site improvements and meet the applicable requirement setbacks, which achieves the ordinance's intent behind that 300-foot minimum width requirement. Subdividing the property to create a newer small tract for the existing house to be able to be in a separate ownership from the agricultural field on the remainder tract is a reasonable request. And again, as stated, the Todd Township has approval. So if we don't have any questions or comments, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the application and adopt the staff's findings of facts.
This is Tim, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I made a motion to approve the subdivision application, adopt the staff's findings of facts. Tim seconded the motion. Tim, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is myself, Veronica. I vote aye. Your application has been approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on to variance application 8-B-24 by Chris and Ginny Billing. Lot 9, Block 1, Summer Mountain Estate, Section 26, Township 141, Range 34, Lake Emma Township on Big Sand Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 16.71.00900. Applicants are requesting the following variances. Part 1, Section 507.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to have both a mechanized lift and a stairway as a means of accessing the lake. Part 2, Section 507.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to have a landing that exceeds the 32 square foot maximum allowed size. And Part 3 of Sections 502.2, 503, and 902 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed platform to be placed partially within the 30-foot bluff crest setback for a filling and excavation in a bluff impact zone to create a proposed platform and sidewalk. Okay. And can you please state your name and address for the record?
Chris and Ginny Billing, 23505 Glory Trail, Park Rapids.
Okay, thank you. And go ahead and give us give us the statement on your request, please.
So the first item is for the lift, putting a lift in in addition to the staircase, which will take down minimal trees where we located it. And and the platform at the bottom is in order to access back to the staircase. Like the other, same lift company as the other companies, they have to have mechanized gates at top and bottom that you install, and then a railing that goes around it. They're kind of regulated by the Minnesota Elevator Group, so they have to be checked out by them too. So, second thing was the pathway from the lift. From our drawing, we were going to have a pathway go over to the fire pit area, and then a fire pit area of bricks put around the fireplace in order to make a level area. And when we looked at different places to put it, our lot, as you saw, has a big dip on the right side of the lot. And this is the more level part of the lot. And then it goes down to the back behind there. So we were hoping to put it on with the least amount of taking trees down. Other areas have places we're planning on putting trees because there is a private road by us, Cool Ridge Drive, which we're gonna put some trees to put some cover to keep the dust from coming up that way. And I guess that's about it. As you can see, it's kind of, where the fire pit sits now is on the top of a kind of a small ridge, and we were just planning on making that level for that fire pit.
Okay, thank you for that. So you mentioned that there's the road beside your property there.
Yep, just to the south of there is the Coa Ridge access road that parallels our property going all the way up, and then it turns right where the house is at and heads to the south.
So during our lot views, I noticed there was, had been some recent logging.
We had popple trees taken out that about 60 to 70% of them were rotten. And so when we bought the property, the septic person mentioned, I asked him if he knew of somebody because there were some of the trees hanging up on each other. And they came in this year now and took those popple out. But that's the only trees we had removed in that, so.
Approximately how many trees did you have?
It was about 80 trees that they had to take out. And it was, yeah, we have pictures showing the logs stacked up, and hardly any of them weren't rotted on the inside, so we were we came up one weekend and there had been no wind, and there was a big tree running right down the middle of the driveway, just fell down, broke off and stuff. So we thought they were more of a concern to the property than anything else. We had already planted, we've already planted probably 100+ seedlings from Badura on that side with the driveway.
Yep, and we plan to do a lot more planting. We want to fill it back up.
Yeah, I just was
Yeah.
I just seen
Yeah.
that there was a lot removed, and I just was
We're
curious
not,
as to.
yeah, we're not fans of popple trees, so.
Okay. All right, do I have any questions or comments from the board? This is Veronica speaking. During the lot views again, you had a very steep bluff there. So I didn't quite get as close as you did because there's pine needles and I wasn't going to take my chances. How many stairs? You said 120 steps getting down at that time.
Yeah, to
So-
get to the dock.
Yeah, so I believe that the location, I believe that number one, yes, I think a lift is necessary in there, and retaining the steps as well, in case the lift was ever to fail. That way you have two options, two ways to getting up. The location itself, I'm in favor of the location where you planned on putting that. That seemed to be a suitable area with minimal removal as far as that goes. As far as the stairway or the landing itself, because it's the 4x12, I'm in favor of that too, because you're not exceeding, the 4-foot width. That seems reasonable as well. I do have some concerns or thoughts during the lot view for myself. I can see that because there's a lot of open area, because of the trees are gone, you do have maybe some options for this platform that you can meet the setback and still have a nice area for your fire pit. Again, at this time, that's just my thoughts, is that you do have some options where you may have to do a little trimming of some, branches and stuff, but it seems as though there's a possibility that you can maybe meet the setback requirements and do that by permit, but see how everybody else is leaning towards that.
This is Tim, I agree with you. I thought there was room to move the platform back. I'm in favor of the lift and the landing on the bottom.
This is Mike, I would concur.
Okay, any other questions or comments? And if not, I'm gonna, for the record, go ahead and open for public comment, so.
I was just gonna say then the access walkway could still go that direction.
I think that we still have discussion on that.
Okay.
Before we can go forward, so. Just for the record again, there's no public comment, so I'm gonna close public comment, so we don't have any of that. So the walkway, I don't know that, depending on if you can do things by permit, moving some stuff back, the walkway, I don't know that that type of depth, in my opinion, has to be created in that bluff impact zone to create your walkway to get to your lift. I don't know what other feedback I have from the members when they saw it. I mean, I did see you have a couple little, you know, you got a little hill here and a little hill there, but I'm not so sure that we need to go that deep. But again, I would definitely be open to some input from some other members. As far as excavating in the bluff impact. I did, I closed it.
Oh, you did
Yes,
close it?
sir.
Okay, thank you, I didn't hear that.
The only comment I'd have with that is that we do have a couple of family members that do have walkers. And so we're trying to create something that would be basically flat across that area, to get from where the lift is going to be to back towards the cabin. Because once you get closer to the cabin, where we're going with the lift is an area that's never really been raked or mowed or nothing, you know? So it's kind of, I would say there's a fair amount of dead material sitting on top of the ground. And all we were planning on doing was leveling that out and putting a hard surface on there so it's safe for somebody like that to walk across to get to the lift.
This is Veronica speaking. I have a question for Eric. Eric, excavating in the bluff impact zone, what is allowed per ordinance by permit, or is there any?
So with a sidewalk, you can do some work to do an in-ground sidewalk, but going a foot deep to bed it seems excessive to me. So that's what triggered the variance. If they were just doing shallow excavation to put in a standard paver stone, that's allowed, but going deeper than that's what prompted the variance.
We were under the impression we needed to put that as part of the variance because we were gonna do anything in the impact zone,
Yeah,
you know, as far as a sidewalk.
right, yeah. No, I understand that.
Because even if you were to, we were understanding that even if you were to put like a wood platform across the ground or something like that, you would have to get permission to do that in the impact zone.
Oh.
So,
This is Mike, is your intent to put a paver stone walkway in?
yes, it was. Just because thought of putting wood in, and then I thought every critter in the neighborhood is gonna make it their new home and stuff, so.
This is Larry, just for clarification. That paver platform that you want to put in, somewhere I read that up to a foot of excavation. I'm assuming you're going to do the minimal that you need to just to level that and get it in there.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a foot, because that's a part of the yard that's where the original fire pit has always been.
From the lot view, well, I
Yeah.
thought a foot would never, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to dig out a foot by any stretch.
No, especially being that it's all sand right there, it's probably just leveling it out to put the pavers down.
Okay. And then also, if you move back to one of the other spots, you basically, from a seating position, would lose your lake view. So I understand why you probably want it there also.
Well, yes, but also, if we move it back or to the one side, we don't know what, I suppose, unless there's, I don't know if there's limitations on what you can put in, like fill or take out outside of the impact zone, but it seemed like a lot more work than just slightly leveling that out and putting pavers around.
Correct.
So,
So this is Veronica speaking. So according to your application and some of the photos that you have for your platform and your sidewalk, I see, it's a little vague as far as, the exact spot. But have you considered, not all sidewalks have to have a straight shot. They can work around the topography, it can be creative and still be appealing. Is there any way that your paver system that you're looking at could be worked around that area?
it can be, you end up doing more cutting and stuff, if you don't do a straight shot, but I'm presuming we're gonna have to, because there's trees or tree roots or anything else that we don't want to disturb, we're gonna go as straight as we could from the fire pit to the, where the lift's gonna be. And we were planning on then heading from our front porch, as you saw, which is, I think, about 18 to 20 feet away from the impact zone. We're planning on going from that porch to getting it to the level of that hill, which would then be in level with the fire pit. So if we have anybody going out of the porch, they could walk straight over to the fire pit without going down and up a hill again.
That seems like a lot to remove.
No, we're not removing, we would just be putting in probably a wood step system or something to get people up that hill again, because you guys walked up the hill from the driveway area, but when you walk from the cabin up to that hill, you have to, it's even a steeper hill there by the front steps. It's kind of a strange lot in that it's, if you walk out the front of the porch, it's going downhill to the one side, so like even today when we were outside, we walk towards the top of that hill to go to the stairs, and you end up going downhill to those stairs, and sometimes that can be dangerous too.
Otherwise, the hill is kind of at a slope, so when you're walking it, you're kind of walking sideways.
And this is still, you're talking still about pavers instead of a wood. I'm thinking kind of a wood platform or wood system might be more sufficient for you because you can tailor it to accommodate that elevation and stuff and have a railed system for your family members or whatever, you know, a wood walkway, 4-foot wood walkway with rails. If, you know, you're looking at topography that's crazy, I think a wood access might be, you know, a decking sort of thing might be better, but.
Yeah, we thought of that, but like even where the stairs are at, we have a fair amount of burrowing going on where animals, chipmunks, I don't know, squirrels, somebody's burrowing under the steps in different areas along there. So I just thought that if it was a flat something, and then with pavers, it's less maintenance up in the future. It'd just be permanent. And we figured it'd also look better on the property, that it would be, you know, we're gonna pick out like a brown, darker brown, so it just kind of meshes in with what's already out there.
Well, this is Veronica speaking. As I mentioned earlier, I am definitely in favor of the lift and the landings needed for the lift. And discussing with the applicants, there's room to, in my opinion, move the fire pit back to meet setbacks and be permitted and still have a lake view, because when I stood there, there was still plenty of lake, or plenty of view. I am not in favor of a lot of excavation on the bluff impact zone. I think there's other options to getting that access path, whether they're creative, whether it's a wood decking platform or, you know, it doesn't have to be a straight shot. Again, that's just how I'm feeling at this point. I forward to approval of the lift. I'm at this point opposed of the platform and the grading. Then if anybody's ready to make a motion, or I can make a motion, okay? Then this is Veronica. I make a motion that we approve the lift and the landing of the application for 8-B-24, accepting the staff's findings of facts. And I make a motion with that motion, to deny the platform, the fire ring platform and grading and the bluff impact zone, as there's room on the property to move that and meet the setback requirements. Again, adopting the staff's findings of facts for the denial.
Can we still put some pavers down if you kind of have them on the top, or we don't do a lot of grading? Can you do that walkway?
Yes, what I would suggest is that you contact Environmental Services. You can have a 4-foot wide path to your landing to the lake, one path generally, so you need to pick, I suppose, which, if you're gonna use the mechanical lift instead of your stairs, then that'd be your one path. And then they would give you guidance as suggested. that if you're going to choose the paver style, then it's going to be minimal grading. And yes, your pavers might have, you know, a little bit of, it won't be completely level, but
Right.
you know, you
wood
could,
or
or wood, if you want, prefer something wooden, then you would definitely get a more, a level shot if you would do that, because you could have, you know, they go over the wetlands and everything in that situation, so. Okay, anybody for a second, please?
This is Mike, I'll second the motion.
Okay, this is, again, a motion was made by myself to approve Part 1, the lift and the stairway and the landing, the 4x12 landing, and adopting the staff's findings of facts, and denying the Part 3 platform to be placed partially in the 30-foot bluff crest setback. And I was also adopted the findings of fact by staff, seconded by Mike. I will take a vote now. Tim, how do you vote?
Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
This is Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is myself, I vote aye. So, again, decision letter will be sent out to you. Any questions or anything like that, please contact Environmental Service Office for guidance, and they will give you some good guidance on what you can do.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Be careful driving home. Okay, next item on the agenda. 9-V-24, Tommy Hegland. Lots 25, 26, and 27, Bethany Beach, Section 4, Township 145, Range 32, Fardin Township on Grace Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 07.40.007110. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance from Section 801 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance and Article 1, Section 2 of the Subsurface Sewage Treatment System Ordinance for a septic tank located within the 10-foot setback required from a dwelling. And do we have the applicant or authorized agent? I'm thinking no, okay.
No, Madam Chair, the agent contacted the office today and asked if the meeting was going to be held, and it sounded as though the agent wasn't planning to attend
Okay,
due to the weather.
okay. Well, this is Veronica speaking. Again, we do have the application in front of us. We're welcome, if you all agree, to move forward with this, and we can, or if anybody has any questions on, or reasons why we should table it and wait for the applicant.
I think we should move forward.
Anybody else? Everybody concurs to move forward? Okay, all right, then we will move forward and discuss. Okay, during the lot views, I recall visiting about if with the authorized agent while we were there to see if maybe a tank could be removed and replaced to meet setback and connected to the current drain field and designed by a licensed designer, and the answer was yes. Again, we don't have that person to concur and officially, you know, go with that, but reviewing the application, it appears to me that determining the age of the septic tank and drain field was questionable. We know that the porch was constructed in 2004, so we know that that tank has been there for 20 years. We also, the last documentation that we have for the septic inspection was 1983. That was 40 years ago, and we don't have any information since that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
My question to Eric is it's my understanding at this time that the county does not have an accurate map of this particular septic system?
We have this sketch from the recent compliance inspection that was done, showing a seepage bed with a couple laterals of a trench system going off of that. What was permitted in 83 was a tank somewhere where the cursor on the screen is, with a 4 lateral system with the laterals running north-south in this area. Back then, if they did an inspection, they didn't make any notes, so we don't have any documentation that that's how the system went in, but We don't have anything on record for a seepage bed ever having been installed, so I'm not quite sure what took place or may have taken place multiple times over the years
Right.
relative to the septic system.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Yes, Mike, in my eyes as well, at this time, we do not have any, and normally we have a inspection done when septic systems are installed, and that has not been done as far as not knowing what exactly was installed. We have some ideas of what's in there.
It says it's a poly tank now that they found on the inspection, and I highly doubt it was a poly tank installed in '83. So there's been some interesting things probably that have taken place with the septic over the years.
I have a question. This is Tim. Eric, if this tank was not, or if this tank was, had to be removed and then set at setback, would the existing drain field have to meet the 150-foot setback to be all updated, to be in compliance, since we're repairing, or?
No. When you touch just the tank and not the drain field, you don't have to bring the drain field up to snuff.
Okay, so the compliance that's on file would still work for the drain field, and they could just change out tank location.
This is Veronica. I have a question as well. So if the tank is replaced, would an inspection then have to take place for the new tank to be installed? So then we would have a little bit of an inspection. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment.
Yeah, in my opinion, when I first looked at it, I did have some of my concerns were taken care of, because it's all air under that porch. But then the age came into play, and the age of the tank. And the tank does deteriorate. And it's like, to me, it's like time to clean it up.
This is Larry, but we know it's a poly tank down there now?
No, sir.
Oh, I thought that was
What the
confirmed.
compliance inspection indicates.
But that is not confirmed, correct? Or,
Well, per the inspector,
But it's a concrete tank flowing into a poly tank?
nope, it's just a poly tank.
would we have noticed the poly tank's manhole cover if, I mean, I know we were trying to look, no?
I mean, the neighbor at the lot view pointed to where he said that he witnessed them pumping the tank this fall, and that was under cover of dirt and it was frozen, so there wasn't a way we didn't have the ability, the equipment to dig down and verify that.
So this is Veronica speaking. If a tank was installed in 1983, could it have even been, from a septic point of view, poly?
Yes, but not necessarily an approved poly, because those polys at that time were the yellow ones, and per manufacturing rule, they can't be pumped
They cannot be pumped.
because they cave in.
Okay, so
And
then
they
what is the
collapse.
life expectancy of a poly tank compared to a cement tank?
Oh, as it collapses, it loses its volume,
Right.
but for the integrity, I would suppose plastic would last longer than cement. But either way, I'm not in favor of leaving it in its place.
This is Mike. I concur. I think it's time that this one come into compliance and all the necessary inspections be done with it to come into compliance.
And this is Veronica. I agree. As mentioned, the documentation that we have stating that we either have components that are anywhere from 20 to 40 years old and not having accurate information substantiating what's actually in the ground by the inspections, I think it is time as well, and I am not in favor of supporting the request. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
This is Mike. I'll make the motion to deny the request and the variance application and accept the staff findings of fact.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone for a second?
This is Larry, I'll second.
Thank you, Larry. We have a motion by Mike to deny the application and adopt staff's findings of facts. A second by Larry. I will take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. The application has been denied. Moving on to variance application 10-V-24 by Brady and Cassandra Helland, part of Government Lot 5, Section 27, Township 143, Range 32, Lakeport Township on Capicona Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 19.27.01200. Applicants are requesting the following after-the-fact variances. Part 1, Section 502.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a platform located within the 100-foot ordinary high watermark setback. Part 2, Section 507.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a sidewalk that exceeds the 4-foot allowed maximum width. And Part 3, Section 502.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a platform again located within the 100-foot ordinary high watermarks setback. And thank you, sir. If you could please state your name and address.
My name's Brady Helland. Address 35085 Mink Drive, LaPorte, Minnesota, 56461.
Okay, Mr. Helen, go ahead and give us a description of your request, please.
Okay, the history is, we received a letter dated December 15th, 2023, saying there was an inspection done December 1st, 2023, based on a complaint, and 3 violations were brought to our attention. The complaint must have been in October and November. The complaint came coincidentally during another process we were involved in to acquire land. We've since withdrawn that request. Never received a complaint by the neighbors in the past. Acquired this property in 2019, as we put in the application, and it was advertised as it appears now. The 3 platforms in violation were, as part of the advertisement, cleared the title company. Also advertised, and the property prior to that sold in 2017 with multiple listings showing the current condition. We were unaware of the violations prior to the complaint. Our position is to maintain the current condition for accessibility and aesthetics. We don't want to lose the lake view that we have down at that, near the lake platform. The issuance of the variance will maintain the character of the locality, and it's not visible to either of the neighbors that we surround, or that surround us. You guys were at the lot viewing last Thursday. We're open to any recommendations that would allow us to maintain the current condition. As stated in the application, we feel it would do more harm than good to remove all the pavers. Erosion will increase, and the uncompacted soil will be damaged. As stated in the application, we don't know how long or who put the pavers there. Most of our neighbors are seasonal. We did have one response from the neighbor to the north. Chuck Cowan said they take no issue with the pavers remaining in place. And we have copies of that if you guys want to read that. Other than that, we didn't hear from any of the other neighbors.
Okay, thank you for the information. Quick question on the platform that's at the ordinary high water mark. Are you aware that there's a water-oriented accessory structure that you could possibly get if you reduced it just a little bit?
I am.
And what are your opinions on that?
To reduce it back to 20 foot back.
Well, the water, yes, it would be
the
reduced,
ordinary high water mark.
yes. And then I believe size would maybe have to be reduced a bit. What is the water-oriented accessory structure size, Eric?
150 square feet,
Oh, okay.
and there's a requirement for 500 square feet of the shore impact zone to be placed in a natural vegetation in exchange for getting the reduced OHW setback.
Okay,
Yes, my view on that, it's a major surgery and it would be a major impact to the property.
well, at this time, it appears that mowing is all the way to the very edge of the property, which is technically not allowed by the shoreline management ordinance variance. And you're currently mowing all the way to the edge?
Yes.
Is-
The lake side of the firing pit.
I mean, the entire,
Platforms
from this photo viewed here, all of the property right there, I can't see where your property line is on either side, but the picture that you're looking at, I don't see much vegetative cover at all to the lake. It's, it's straight shot, what, as wide as the house all the way down?
There's
A
tree.
tiny
or-
tree there?
Yeah, there's bushes there, yep.
So, I mean, you're allowed to have a 15 by 20 open recreation area where you can cut and mow and trim for a use. You pretty much have your use all the way to the end of your lot there, to the water's edge.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, Mike?
As I looked at it, there's obviously erosion taking place on that shoreline, and it's getting closer and closer to this existing paver stone fire ring area. And I would disagree as far as, yes, would it be work to remove that and restore it to grade and vegetate it? But I think based on what's going on that close to the lake, I could not support keeping this in place. I believe it needs to be moved back and become in compliance as with the rest of the walkway and platforms.
Thank you, Mike.
This is Tim. Yeah, I looked in it, you can see where that broke away. It's fresh in the sod, and it's creeping up to your platform. Unfortunately, it's too bad the person that called into the county didn't do it with the previous owner. So, unfortunately, the current owners inherit the violations. That whole thing is, as we look, it all runs straight down that sidewalk and right to that, and it's all sand. There's no binder of anything to hold it. I don't even know what the answer is. I understand what he's saying about removing it does no more harm too, because it is sand, but where it stays seems to be a problem too.
Well, it's my belief that with removal, you can do restoration and get that revegetated within the entire impact zone and have at least some hope then of holding from further erosion, especially if it's back and the water runoff will be reduced based on the size will be smaller of both the walkway and the platform. So I think, the restoration is needed. It's just to me, a classic example of what happens when you're building doing things like this within the impact zone.
Okay, thank you, both Tim and Mike. Before we move forward, I'm going to go ahead and open for public comment, just for the record, as nobody's here. So I will close public comment. I'm in agreement. I believe that if there's any desire to retain any type of structure there, I think that it could be removed, and you could follow, again, as I discussed, with the water-oriented accessory structure. You can look into that, and you would still have something in that area that meets that 150 square foot that he mentioned. Again, you would have to follow the guidance in giving up 500 square feet of vegetation, which, as I've already discussed, you need because you don't have any vegetation between there and the lake. I agree, removing restoration and revegetation is going to be most suitable. As far as the width of the sidewalk, again, I think it can be reduced to and meet the ordinance as 4 foot. So I have to concur that it's unfortunate, as Tim said, that you inherited these issues. Again, that's a buyer beware. You need to, contact environmental services and see if there are any violations before you purchase the property. So it's unfortunate that you inherited these violations and, the prior one didn't. And it's unfortunate that they weren't caught prior. But again, that's how I feel as well, that I am not open to approving these. As I think it needs to be restored, and we do already have erosion indicated, so.
So Eric, he can go through a process of making a 48-foot square foot flat area with pavers in lieu of a water-oriented structure?
No,
Like, instead of saying, okay, I want something down here to keep my battery charger, like a 4x6 or 4x8 that we allow, or 48 square foot.
What we allow is 32-foot landing.
No,
Generally-
the little structures right
Oh,
next
you
to the
mean
water.
the water-oriented structures?
Yeah.
They're a little different size.
Yeah, it's 48 square feet for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's an alternative to having a 150 square foot maximum platform.
Right.
Okay, so he is allowed that at 20 feet back.
With the mitigation of restoring
500.
500 square feet of the shore impact zone to natural vegetation.
500 square feet?
Because at this time, there's not,
10 by 50.
Yep.
And several other possible configurations.
Okay.
or multiple configurations
Yeah.
on both sides of the lot. I mean, at this time,
And-
there's not much,
And there's no variance, you don't need any variance to do that.
no, it has to be approved by environmental services. They go in and get a permit. And with, yep,
The whole thing could come back 20 foot from ordinary high water mark, but it could only be 48 square foot.
If you
Couldn't do
can,
that whole circle and bring the whole,
you can do a structure that would be a max of 48 square feet in footprint, 10-foot height max, or you could do up to 150 square feet of a platform in exchange for putting in natural vegetation, a 500 square foot portion of the shore impact zone.
Which essentially, something should be done there.
you still have options that you're not going to lose, you'll have something, but something that will fit and still fall into compliance.
if we keep this as is and do a 2-foot buffer on the lakeside.
No, you're gonna have to move it about 10 feet.
Yeah, you're gonna have to reduce it. How wide is it now? What's the
16
distance?
by 16.
So you're gonna have to take off at least half or more, just a smidge over, to get to that, to meet that setback. Or more, I mean,
Could be
depending on.
150 square feet, though. Okay,
But 20 foot back from that, wherever his ordinary high
Right.
water mark is. Yep.
12 by 12 essentially, a little bit more.
yeah.
This is Larry. Is it just the pavers that are out of compliance, or is the decking also the back deck? Just the pavers? Okay.
Yeah, this was allowed by variance, a previous variance, correct?
Okay.
The house.
The deck was? Okay,
But all pavers are out of compliance.
correct.
Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Mike, go ahead and make a motion, please.
This is Mike, I'll make the motion to deny the request and accept the staff's findings of fact.
Okay, Mike made a motion to deny the application and accept the staff's findings. Anybody for a second?
This is Larry, I'll second.
Okay. Mike made the motion to deny the application and adopt the staff's findings of facts for all parts of the application. And seconded by Larry. Take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I'll vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. Okay. Again, you'll receive a decision letter, but definitely speak with environmental services, see what your options are, if you could look into that water-oriented, section there maybe, and, or what other options you might have to correct the violations. Thank you. Okay, we have to go back to the application 5-V-24 that we moved to the end. Guess we still have no one in the audience, so here we go. Variance application 5-V-24 by Thomas and Kathy Gee, part of Government Lot 4 and part of Government Lot 2, Section 1, Township 145, Range 32, Fardin Township on Wolf Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 07.01.01200. Applicants are requesting an after-the-fact variance from Section 506 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed guest cottage on a lot that doesn't meet the required 150-foot minimum lot width at the ordinary high water mark. Again, we still do not have any applicants available, so I will ask the members again if we want to proceed with the application as we are allowed, or if we want to table it for the applicant to provide information if they show.
I would be in favor of proceeding.
Okay, anyone else? Mike? Okay, then let's proceed, please. I will right off the bat go ahead and open for public comment, just for the record, just to get it out of the way. No public comment here, as nobody's in the audience, so close public comment.
And this is Tim speaking, so after our lot view and discovery and after the facts that have been now added to this,
That is correct.
Eric, staff maintains the same recommendation as this original staff report?
Yes, in spite of the landowner's behavior.
And just for the record, I would like to state that the original variance application was requesting a 660 square foot guest cottage in an area of the detached garage. And during lot views, it was discovered that the variance application is now after the fact variance request, as the guest cottage referenced in the application was currently occupied and in use.
And the applicants did pay the additional after-the-fact fee that was required today, so
Yep, and that's exactly what I was gonna say next, is they did acknowledge that and have paid and have moved forward.
So by paying the after the fact, it was an admittance to the violation? Or,
that's how I take it.
okay.
And it does appear that the applicants have obtained a short-term, an STR license in August of 2023. So I imagine, does that STR, at this time, it's only for the house, correct? So if this gets approved, do you foresee them, or would you put documentation in any of their decision letter that if it becomes, can they actually have they're not allowed to have the guest cottage as an STR2, because then that would be two, correct?
If it meets duplex lot size criteria, they can.
might,
And this
okay.
does not meet that, so.
Okay, so still, they can only have one.
Correct.
They cannot do both,
Okay.
okay?
And the
Are the applicants aware of that?
That I couldn't tell you.
Okay,
They can't use it as overflow space though, correct? To add sleeping area to the STR?
no, sir.
No,
No.
okay,
No.
Use it
Yeah.
for their own use.
Right.
okay, that is all, okay,
Yep.
very good.
And the property is supposedly up for sale, so I don't know if they've been saying that they were gonna sell it since last year, so that could be a factor of how you look at it. You know, the other consideration, I guess, would be, future septic space, and because of different things that the owners have done, they've used up a lot of their available areas, so they do have some space left, but it's gonna be probably where all those trees are toward the rear, the east portion of the property.
This is Veronica speaking. This is somewhat off subject, but because of the property being in the Mississippi Headwaters corridor, when they obtained the short-term rental license, did you have to notify the Mississippi Headwaters Board as well? That's just nothing like that, even though our variance applications and stuff require a double stamp, but nothing else does.
The license doesn't, just because it is a
Alright.
staff action. It
Okay,
doesn't involve a board or,
okay. But the guest cottage stuff still has to get a double stamp if we approve.
it needs their certification, but their comp plan doesn't speak to guest cottages, so it's kind of a,
Okay,
it's a hoop you have to jump through.
right, okay.
I'm wondering if, I'm leaning towards approving, but a condition that plans be submitted if the county doesn't already have them for alternate septic systems, drain fields, for both of the systems as a condition of this being
Protecting those
approved.
spots.
It must protect those two spots. And not a condition, but just that the understanding that this particular guest cottage cannot be used as a rental, including not as part of the existing rental.
With the current house and all the septic things that were going on last year, they ended up getting a short-term rental license for the occupancy that the house system can support, but they had wanted to work on putting in a larger system so they could bump up the occupancy in the house, but that hasn't happened due to a variety of things with just the applicant and also her septic designer.
Is the septic system that's currently operating there, is it a pressure bed or is it drain field? What is it? What is
It's
this?
Oh, it
This
looked
is
like,
the
no, that's pressure bed.
That's what I have with the packet, okay.
Yep.
So when someone comes in with a pressure bed and wants to expand to increase occupancy, how do they expand on a pressure bed?
You can make it wider. They can get, looking at this one, see the picture there, it looks like, what, 12 feet wide or something? Or is that the
Yeah,
line there?
12.
I don't know what it is.
This one's 12 by 22, and that
Yeah, you
services
can make
the,
them up to 25 feet.
So very
you know,
similar
So
to,
you just add on square footage.
okay,
that's the system for the guest
Oh,
house.
okay. Oh, yeah, that other one is,
so if this property had the correct width at the shoreline, would they be allowed to put that 660 inside that shop? But you have to use by permit.
But they still couldn't utilize it as a second rental unit or part of the rental unit.
right.
What, the current house is, the septic is how many bedroom are they allowed for the rental?
3 bedrooms, 6 occupants max. That one's also a pressure bed.
So both are pressure bed. When it comes to alternate drain fields, then, again, most likely gonna be a pressure bed,
Yeah.
according to maybe the soils
And
and
right
such.
next to them, generally.
Back to back, okay. And they already had an old drain field there, it
Yeah.
appears, so,
Part of the issue with being able, now that I think about it a bit, the part of the reason they couldn't expand the size of the system for the house is because of the tanks for the house
Being-
being partly under the garage and under their sidewalk. And they didn't want to,
Open that can of worms.
right,
wouldn't it be sufficient if they wanted to increase, fill those up, close them off, and then put the tank?
That was suggested by my staff repeatedly to them.
Okay. Okay, Mike, can you repeat the possible conditions that you had? Number one was just making sure that,
Alternate drain field sites be identified and preserved on the property for both systems.
okay. And did you have something about the STR or just documenting or,
That's just for documentation that the guest cottage is not allowed to be, I guess the clarification is that only one rental unit is allowed per this property.
okay.
So they could choose to make the guest cottage the rental if they wanted, but then the house couldn't, or vice versa.
If they chose to do that, would they have to come in and seek a different type of license? Because right now their license says they can have 6 people.
The license is currently for the main house. So
Right, yeah,
if
but I
they-
mean, they would have to just like
Switch it, they'd have to do a new-
cancel one and, okay. Anybody else have any other comments or questions? It sounds as though we're all in agreement that it's a possibility to retain that, even though it was a little misleading. With maybe a couple little conditions. The lot is uniquely shaped due to the unclassified creek that runs along the southwest side of the lot. It is also 104,000 square feet per the county's GIS. The lot does meet the 150-foot minimum lot width requirement at the 100-foot ordinary watermark setback. So it does meet a lot of criteria. And again, if it is approved, then we still need to get Mississippi River Corridor certification. Anybody ready to make a motion?
This is Mike. I'll make the motion to approve with the condition that alternate septic drain fields be identified and preserved for both septic systems on the, for the house and for the guest cabin, and accept the staff's findings of fact.
Okay. Before I go for clarification on your condition, are you wanting this alternate drain field sites be identified prior to obtaining the after-the-fact permit?
Correct.
Okay. You want to state that then in there before the after-the-fact permit can be issued?
Yes, add that to that.
Okay. All right, so Mike made a motion to approve the application, the after-the-fact variance application, with the conditions he specified. The alternate drain field sites be identified and preserved for both drain fields and documented and provided prior to the after-the-fact permits be obtained. Do I have a second?
This is Tim, I'll second that.
Okay, and Timothy seconded, and I believe Mike adopted staff's findings of facts.
Correct.
And so we will take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
This is Mike. I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye, and again, we're finished. Move forward to the Mississippi Headwaters Board. For them, okay, and for us, next item would be, here we go, miscellaneous. Anything?
Nothing for that. Communications, don't, I think it's probably in the 4 to 6 range for agenda items for next month. Got a few that came in today that were incomplete, and I'll see if I can get what I need from them in the next day or two to complete it, and if not, that'll scale back the size of the agenda, but
Okay,
one of them potentially could be the conditional use permit application for the school use that we dealt with the ordinance amendment recently.
okay. Any communications then? No? Nothing else? All right, then I'll Open to a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, and this is Veronica, I second. Motion by Tim, second by Veronica to adjourn. I'll take a vote. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Larry, how do you vote?
Larry, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.